The Sleepover Shadows. It was a dark and stormy night, the perfect setting for a sleepover horror story. My friends and I, Sarah, Mike, and Tom, decided to spend the night at my grandparents' old house, which had been abandoned for years. We were adrenaline junkies, always seeking a thrill, and this spooky house seemed like the ultimate adventure. As we arrived at the house, its eerie silhouette sent shivers down my spine. The paint was peeling off the walls, and the windows were cracked, giving it an ominous appearance. We laughed nervously, trying to downplay our fear as we pushed open the creaky front door. Inside, the air was heavy with a musty smell, and the dim light from our flashlights only added to the creepy ambience. We made our way to the living room, where we huddled together, sharing ghost stories to set the mood. The sound of the rain tapping on the windows and the wind howling outside only intensified our fears. As the night wore on, fatigue began to take its toll, and we decided to head upstairs to find a place to sleep. Sarah and I chose the guest room, while Mike and Tom opted for the room across the hall. Lying in bed, I tried to convince myself that it was just an old house and there was nothing to be afraid of. But every creak and groan of the house made me jump. Just as I was starting to drift off to sleep, I heard a faint whisper. My heart skipped a beat, and I sat up, straining my ears to listen. "Get out," the voice whispered, barely audible. I woke Sarah, who also heard it, and we decided to investigate. As we stepped into the hallway, the floorboards creaked beneath our feet, and the whisper grew louder. It seemed to be coming from the end of the hallway, near the attic. Summoning all our courage, we slowly ascended the stairs leading to the attic. The door was slightly ajar, and the whisper was now clearer, though still indistinct. As we pushed the door open, a gust of cold wind rushed past us, and the whisper turned into a chilling laugh. Terrified, we stepped back, but something compelled us to go inside. The attic was dark, except for a flickering candle at the far end. In its dim light, we saw an old Ouija board, covered in dust. The planchette moved on its own, spelling out a word "leave." The atmosphere was suffocating, and we rushed back downstairs, where we found Mike and Tom waiting. We tried to explain what had happened, but they didn't believe us, attributing it to our imagination. Still, none of us wanted to stay in that creepy house any longer. Just as we were about to leave, the front door slammed shut on its own, and the windows rattled violently. We were trapped. Panic set in, and we frantically searched for another way out. That's when we noticed strange symbols etched on the walls and floor. They seemed to glow with an eerie light, and the temperature dropped even further. Sarah screamed as a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. Its eyes were like two burning coals, and its skeletal fingers reached out to us. We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move or escape. The figure spoke in a chilling voice, recounting a tragic tale of betrayal and murder that had taken place in the very house we were in. It was the spirit of a tormented soul seeking revenge. We had unknowingly awakened it by disturbing the Ouija board. Desperation took over, and I remembered something my grandmother once told me about spirits being bound to a location. If we could find the spirit's remains and give them a proper burial, maybe we could put it to rest. With trembling legs, we followed the spirit's instructions and dug up a long-forgotten corner of the garden. There, beneath the soil, lay the remains of a young woman. Her bones were fragile, but her presence was powerful. We carried the bones into the house, and the spirit's rage intensified. It screamed and wailed, trying to stop us. But we persisted, and as we placed the bones in a makeshift coffin, the spirit gradually became calmer. Tears streamed down the spirit's face as it thanked us for setting it free from its torment. Its storm dissipated, and the symbols on the walls faded away. The house felt lighter, and the storm outside began to subside. Exhausted and emotionally drained, we left the house and never looked back. Our sleepover horror had turned into a real-life nightmare, but we had survived and, in a way, helped a restless spirit find peace. Even now, I can't forget that terrifying night. The experience taught us that some things are better left undisturbed, and that restless spirits may not always be malevolent. But the shadows of that haunted house will forever lurk in the deepest corners of our memories, a reminder of the night we faced the unknown and emerged changed forever. Story 2. The Whispering Shadows. It was a cold and misty autumn night, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows on the ground. My friends and I, Alex, Lily, and Sam, were excitedly preparing for a sleepover at my uncle's old farmhouse. The house had been abandoned for years, but its haunted reputation intrigued us and fueled our curiosity. Little did we know that the horror that awaited us would surpass our wildest nightmares. As we approached the desolate farmhouse, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The gnarled trees surrounding the property seemed to whisper ancient secrets, sending shivers down my spine. Ignoring my unease, we bravely ventured inside. The interior was dark and musty, with cobwebs hanging like ethereal tapestries. The dim light from our flashlights danced on the dusty floor as we made our way to the living room. We huddled together, sharing ghost stories and daring each other to explore the house's darkest corners. As midnight approached, we decided it was time for a Ouija board session. With trembling hands, we placed our fingers on the planchette, inviting any restless spirits to communicate with us. At first, nothing happened, but then the planchette began to move on its own, spelling out words that sent chills down our spines. "Leave now," it spelled out, over and over again. Feeling both excitement and dread, we questioned the entity, but it became more aggressive, spelling out ominous warnings. Fear consumed us, and we hastily ended the session, hoping it was just a prank. But as we put the Ouija board away, we couldn't deny the unsettling energy that lingered in the air. As the night wore on, we decided to try and get some sleep. We settled into our sleeping bags, trying to forget the chilling encounter with the Ouija board. But just as I was beginning to doze off, I heard a faint whisper, barely audible above the wind outside. I sat up, trying to make sense of the sound, but it was too indistinct to decipher. I glanced at my friends, but they seemed sound asleep. Convinced it was my imagination, I lay back down, only to hear the whisper again, now clearer and more insistent. "Help me," the voice pleaded. My heart raced, and I woke Lily, who was sleeping next to me. She heard it too, her eyes wide with fear. With trepidation, we followed the voice, which led us to the cellar door. The door was slightly ajar, and an icy draft seeped from within. Summoning all our courage, we descended into the darkness, our flashlights cutting through the shadows. The cellar was damp and filled with a pungent smell. As we explored further, we stumbled upon an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. Its entries spoke of a tragedy that occurred in the farmhouse decades ago, a young girl who had gone missing and was never found. The voice we had heard belonged to her, trapped in the realm between the living and the dead. Driven by compassion and a desire to help, Lily and I made a solemn promise to the spirit we would find her remains and give her a proper burial so she could finally find peace. But as we made our way back to the living room to tell our friends, an ominous presence loomed over us. In the flickering candlelight, we saw it, a figure cloaked in shadows, its face obscured by darkness. Its eyes glowed like embers, and a sinister smile twisted its ghostly features. The temperature dropped, and an unnatural silence enveloped the room. The figure spoke, its voice a haunting echo that sent shivers down our spines. "You dare to interfere?" it hissed, its malevolence palpable. "She belongs to me, and I will never let her go." We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. The entity advanced towards us, its bony fingers reaching out, and the room seemed to close in around us. Panic threatened to overwhelm us, but Lily clutched the journal tightly and recited a prayer she had learned from her grandmother. A burst of light erupted from the journal, forcing the entity back into the shadows. We seized the opportunity and rushed to find our friends, waking them from their slumber. Together, we recited the prayer, channeling our collective energy to confront the malevolent spirit. The battle between light and darkness raged on, and the house trembled with a supernatural force. But united, we prevailed. The entity let out a blood-curdling scream as it dissipated into nothingness, leaving behind an eerie silence. With the spirit's malevolence gone, we felt a sense of relief, but our task wasn't complete yet. Guided by the journal's entries, we ventured into the woods surrounding the farmhouse and unearthed the remains of the young girl. Tears filled our eyes as we held a solemn burial, honoring her memory and granting her the peace she had longed for. As we laid her to rest, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and we knew she was finally free. The next morning, the sun rose on a tranquil scene. The haunted farmhouse had returned to its dormant state. We bid our final farewell to the place, knowing we had done something profound and life-changing. The sleepover had turned into a night of terror and revelation, but it had also shown us the strength of friendship and the power of compassion. We left the farmhouse that morning, forever connected by an otherworldly experience that would shape our lives forever. The whispers of that haunted night would linger in our hearts, a constant reminder that not all shadows are to be feared, and that sometimes the most terrifying journeys lead us to the most profound truths. Story 3. The Haunting at Ravenwood Manor. The wind howled outside the old Ravenwood Manor as my friends and I, Emma, Josh, and Ryan, prepared for a night of terror. It was our annual tradition to have a sleepover on Halloween, and this year we had decided to explore the rumored haunted mansion that stood at the edge of town. Its dark history and chilling stories had piqued our curiosity, making it the perfect destination for our sleepover horror. As we approached the eerie manor, its decrepit walls loomed over us like silent sentinels of the past. The moon's pale light shone down, casting an ominous glow on the overgrown garden. Emma giggled nervously, trying to hide her fear, but I could tell she was as uneasy as the rest of us. Pushing open the rusty iron gates, we entered the courtyard, our footsteps echoing through the desolate silence. The front door creaked open, as if inviting us to enter its haunting embrace. With trepidation, we stepped inside, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. The interior was a labyrinth of dusty corridors and forgotten rooms. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and the walls seemed to whisper haunting secrets. As we explored, we stumbled upon an old portrait gallery. The faces in the paintings appeared to follow us with their haunting gazes, sending shivers down our spines. Josh, always the daredevil, suggested we split up to cover more ground. Reluctantly, we agreed, each taking a different wing of the manor. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on me as I ventured alone into the unknown. In the depths of the manor, I heard a faint sound, a soft, mournful melody drifting through the air. Intrigued, I followed the haunting tune, leading me to a grand ballroom. There, bathed in an ethereal glow, was a spectral figure, dancing in the moonlight. I couldn't believe my eyes. A ghostly couple twirled gracefully across the ballroom floor, their movements as fluid as water. The woman's pale gown billowed like mist, and the man's black suit blended into the shadows. They seemed unaware of my presence, lost in their timeless dance. Mesmerized, I approached them, feeling an inexplicable connection to their tragic story. As I drew nearer, the music seemed to crescendo, and the figures turned to face me. Their faces were etched with sorrow, and their eyes held a longing that pierced my soul. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The woman's lips moved, but no words escaped. Instead, her eyes seemed to convey a tale of heartbreak and loss. The man reached out to me, his hand passing through mine as if we existed in different dimensions. "You must help us," he finally whispered, his voice filled with desperation. Before I could respond, the ethereal dancers vanished, leaving the ballroom shrouded in darkness once again. Fear and curiosity battled inside me as I rejoined my friends to share the bizarre encounter. As I recounted what I had seen, Emma gasped. She revealed that the mansion's tragic history involved a forbidden love between the daughter of the manor's original owner and a servant. The love affair had ended in tragedy, with the couple mysteriously disappearing on the night of a grand ball, never to be seen again. Determined to unravel the mystery, we delved deeper into the manor's history. We learned that the mansion had become a cursed place, plagued by inexplicable happenings and ghostly sightings over the years. The spirits of the ill-fated lovers were said to roam the halls, eternally searching for closure. Nightfall brought an eerie atmosphere as we returned to the ballroom, determined to find a way to help the spirits find peace. We placed candles in a circle and held hands, forming a makeshift seance. Emma, with her delicate intuition, acted as the medium, calling out to the spirits. As we sat in the dim candlelight, the air grew heavy and the temperature dropped. Soft whispers echoed through the room, and the faint sound of the haunting melody returned. The spectral couple materialized once more, their translucent forms gliding towards us. Emma's voice trembled as she asked, "How can we help you find peace?" The woman's ethereal voice spoke through Emma, her words laden with sorrow. "We seek forgiveness and redemption. Our love was forbidden, and it brought tragedy upon this house. Our restless souls will not find peace until our story is told." With her words, memories flooded my mind, like fragments of a forgotten tale. I knew what we had to do. The mansion's dark history had to be brought to light so that the spirits could finally rest. Together, we worked tirelessly, researching archives and uncovering forgotten documents. We pieced together the tragic story of the ill-fated lovers, revealing the injustice and heartache that had befallen them. On Halloween night, we gathered the townspeople in the ballroom, where we shared the story of the spectral couple. The truth echoed through the grand hall, the weight of the past lifting from the manor's haunted halls. As the final words left Emma's lips, a soft, golden light enveloped the ballroom. The spectral couple stood before us one last time, their faces now serene and at peace. With a final embrace, they dissipated, leaving a sense of closure in the air. From that day on, Ravenwood Manor lost its haunting reputation. The spectral couple's restless souls had finally found peace, and the mansion became a place of beauty and tranquility. As the years passed, our sleepover horror became a cherished memory. Emma, Josh, Ryan, and I never forgot the haunting night at Ravenwood Manor, the night we helped a pair of star-crossed lovers find redemption and love in the afterlife. And every Halloween, as the moon hung low in the sky, we would raise a toast to the spirits of the past, grateful for the bond that had formed that fateful night, a bond that transcended time and united us forever. Story 4. The Forgotten Doll. It was a chilly autumn night, and my friends, Mia, Ben, and Jake, and I were gathered at my house for a sleepover. We were all excited, looking forward to a night of spooky movies and ghost stories. Little did we know that the innocent fun we had planned would turn into a terrifying nightmare that we would never forget. My parents were away for the weekend, leaving us alone in the house. As darkness enveloped the neighborhood, we huddled in the living room, surrounded by dimly lit candles, setting the perfect ambience for our scary tales. Mia suggested we each share a creepy story to spook the others. Ben started, recounting a tale of a haunted forest where lost souls wander for eternity. Jake followed with a chilling story of a haunted carnival that appeared only on Halloween night. As the storytellers battened past to me, I hesitated for a moment, trying to think of something to match their spine-chilling tales. I finally decided to tell the story of the Forgotten Doll. It was a story I had heard from my grandmother, and it had always sent shivers down my spine. The tale revolved around an old doll that was said to bring bad luck and misfortune to its owners. The doll was believed to be cursed, its porcelain eyes carrying the sorrow of the souls it had tormented. As I finished my story, I could see my friends were visibly disturbed, but they tried to laugh it off as mere fiction. The atmosphere in the room had changed, and a sense of unease settled upon us. To lighten the mood, we decided to watch a funny movie to shake off the fear. After the movie, Mia suggested we play a game of hide-and-seek in the dark. It sounded like a thrilling idea, and we all agreed. We turned off all the lights in the house, leaving only the faint glow of the moonlight filtering through the curtains. Mia volunteered to be the seeker, and the rest of us scattered to find the best hiding spots. I found a perfect spot in my parents' bedroom closet, behind a pile of old clothes. As I crouched in the darkness, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me. The minutes felt like hours as I waited in the closet, the suspense growing with every passing second. Suddenly, I heard a faint noise coming from the corner of the room, a soft, eerie giggling that made my blood run cold. I was sure it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. Mia's voice called out, "Ready or not, here I come." I held my breath, trying to stifle the sound of my heartbeat. The footsteps drew closer, and the closet door creaked open. My heart pounded in my chest as I prepared to be found. But when Mia's hand reached in to grab me, I saw a glint of terror in her eyes. She pulled her hand back, her face pale as a ghost. "Guys, come quick," she stammered, her voice trembling. Ben and Jake rushed into the room, and their expressions mirrored Mia's fear. Following their gaze, I saw the source of their terror, a porcelain doll sitting on a shelf across the room. It had not been there before. We were all frozen in place, unable to comprehend how the doll had appeared out of thin air. Its porcelain eyes seemed to stare right through us, and its eerie grin sent chills down our spines. The room felt suffocating, as if an unseen presence had taken hold. Trying to regain our composure, we decided to put the doll back where it belonged, on a dusty shelf in the attic. Mia insisted it must have been a prank played by one of us, but none of us were convinced. The doll had an aura of malevolence that couldn't be ignored. As we returned to the living room, we tried to forget about the strange occurrence, convincing ourselves that it was just a bizarre coincidence. But as the night wore on, strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own, and distant whispers filled the air. Every now and then, we caught glimpses of the doll in unexpected places, as if it were mocking us, taunting us with its presence. Each time we tried to move it back to the attic, it would reappear somewhere else, as if it refused to be forgotten. Fear gripped our hearts, and our laughter turned into nervous glances. Mia suggested we destroy the doll, but the moment anyone tried to touch it, an overwhelming feeling of dread washed over them, forcing them to back away. We realized that we had awakened an ancient evil with my chilling tale. The curse of the forgotten doll was now haunting us. We couldn't escape its clutches, and it seemed to feed our fear. As the night wore on, the paranormal activity intensified. Shadows danced on the walls, and ghostly figures seemed to move just out of sight. The doll's presence grew stronger, its eerie laughter echoing through the house. Terrified and desperate, we knew we had to find a way to break the curse. We searched for any information that could help us, and we discovered an old diary in the attic, a diary belonging to a previous resident of the house. The diary spoke of a sinister ritual used to appease a malevolent spirit. It required an offering of something dear to us, a gesture of sacrifice to set the spirit free. It was the only way to rid ourselves of the cursed doll. As the first light of dawn approached, we gathered our courage and decided to perform the ritual. Mia offered a treasured piece of jewelry, Ben sacrificed his lucky charm, and Jake gave up a cherished photo. With tears in our eyes, we placed the offerings before the doll and recited a chant from the diary. The room filled with an intense energy, and the doll began to shake. Its porcelain eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its laughter grew louder. But as we continued the ritual, the doll's laughter transformed into anger,